Which equation below represents the tangent line to f of x at x equals pi over 2, given that f of x equals x squared sine of 3x. Okay. So the idea here is the product rule. Whoop, whoop. There we go. So f of x equals x squared sine of 3x. So we're going to use uv prime equals uv prime plus u prime v. This is just the product rule. Where in this case, I will say that u equals x squared, v equals sine of 3x. Yeah, pretty standard. Yep, I'm good with that. 2x v prime equals cosine of 3x, and I left a little gap here because we're going to have to do the chain rule. So the chain rule is where you have a nested function. So we're going to have to take the derivative of 3x and multiply that. But I'd like to have a 3 on the left side, so I put it on the left side. Oop, change colors. Ooh, blue. F prime of x equals u v prime plus u prime 2x times v, sine of 3x. Wait a second, we're doing a tangent line, right? Tangent line? Yes. Okay. So I guess to backtrack, big picture, to do a tangent line, first thing we want to do is find the slope, m. We also then want to find points x and y, and we'll use that with an equation to basically create a tangent line. So first thing, find the slope. Find the slope means find the derivative. And so we have f prime of x, which is the derivative, and now we want to plug in pi over 2. Okay? Totally, we can do this. We can do this. Confidence. F prime, oh, that is a terrible prime, and there we go. Pi over 2 equals pi squared over 4, because 2 squared is 4, times 3 cosine of 3 pi over 2. All right. Circle time. Circle up. So here is 0, here is pi, here is 2 pi. So 3 pi over 2, oh no, it's 0. I should be happy that it's 0 because then that part cancels out. But now I feel guilty about spending all this time calculating pi over 2 squared. It's okay, I'll get over it. So the cosine of this, so the cosine is kind of like the x value. And so the cosine of 3 pi over 2 is just going to be 0. So this part will be 0. Plus 2 pi over 2 sine of 3 pi over 2. That makes sense? Seem reasonable? It does. Seems very reasonable. Yes. Okay. So then do some canceling. Cancel, cancel. And f prime of pi over 2. Make sure that's what we're actually doing. Yep, pi over 2. Yep. Equals. So we're left with pi times the sine of 3 pi over 2. Sine of 3 pi over 2, which is right here, 3 pi over 2. That'll be negative 1. Negative 1. So we'll say this is negative pi. And that is our slope at x equals pi over 2. Okay? Now that we have that, let's find our x and y points. So I'm going to do that up here just because it's close to the information I need. So f of pi over 2. So I just plugged in pi over 2 for x. That little teeny line right there is bothering me. There we go. I was deeply worried there for a second. Okay. So now I have pi over 2 squared sine of 3 pi over 2. as we've decided earlier, this is -1, and so this will be negative pi squared over 4. So the point that we're going to work with is x, y, little arrow, pi over 2, negative pi squared over 4. Negative pi squared over 4. Okay. That looks like a 9. Amateur. Okay. So now, ooh, purple. I like purple. So now we bring everything, put it all together. So we use the formula y minus y1 equals mx minus x1. Where these are the points that we're going to plug in. So y minus pi squared over 4 equals negative pi, because that's our slope, m, times x minus pi over 2. And they probably want us to simplify? Yes. Okay, we can simplify this. So we have y equals negative pi x plus, let's see if they have parentheses real quick on some of these. Nope, no parentheses. Sans parentheses. So we have plus pi squared over 2, because pi times that. Yep. But then we're going to add pi. No, we're going to subtract, because these cancel out. So we're going to change colors. There we go. Ooh. Negative pi squared over 4. So this over here, I'm going to multiply by 2 over 2, and this will give us 2 pi squared over 4. And the end result then, when we add these together, would be negative pi x, pi squared, negative pi, minus plus pi squared over 4. Because we have 2 pi squared over 4 here, take off 1 pi squared over 4, and we're left with only 1 pi squared over 4. Whew. That was far more cumbersome than I initially expected. Okay. So hopefully this will actually be one of the potential answers. So we have negative pi over x, pi squared over 4. Aha! Right here at the top. With pi written as pi. So, to backtrack, look at what we did. So we're told to find a tangent line. So a tangent line, you should think, alright, we need slope and we need 2 points. So to find the slope, we took the derivative. After we took the derivative, we plugged in our x value, because our derivative was in terms of x. And from there, though if it had been in terms of y, we could have plugged in y too. We had to use like an implicit differentiation or something like that. So after we have our slope, which we used from the derivative, we plugged in our 2 points using y minus y1 and equals m times x minus x1. We arrange things to get something as y equals this, and that this that we found was in the equation for our tangent line.